Well, I've got another oil filter. Unfortunately, it's another FRAM, although I've already taken one apart before. This one was an older one, and this one here is from 2012, so it'll be a little more accurate to today's standards. So once I take this one apart, I can also compare it to the older FRAM directly. So when I'm done, I'll lay them next to each other and see if anything changed over a decade or so. Alright, so I'll get right on with it. This filter was used with synthetic oil for about 6,500 miles. Also, the FRAM I'm opening today is a PH3506, and it's their extra guard version. And even if you're letting it sit for a little while, upside down probably for about a half hour, so about a half a cup of oil in it. I've just finished taking it apart. At least I just finished taking this off, the end cap, and then I'll take it the rest of the way. The anti-drainback valve didn't even come off the top part; came off separate, and you can. This is not from me. I don't. Oh, maybe that was. Yeah, I think these metal shavings are from me. Taking off the end cap. And here's the filter. Let's see if I can get it out of here. Took it off right where it is. Alright, so here's the filter element. Typical FRAM, there aren't too many pleats. Paper end caps, I don't think that's ever going to change unless you upgrade to their, I think it's a tough guard filter. This was 6,500 miles, that metal's from me cutting it open. The end caps really don't show any sign of coming apart at all. So they've done their job. On the inside it is supported by metal, and of course, as FRAM always says, they have a little metal staple kind of thing keeping it together. But overall, there's a lot of pleats over on this side here, but on the other side they're very, very spaced out. Typical FRAM. These don't impress me at all. I don't like that. And onto the inside of the filter. I'll dump out the rest of the oil that's in here. There's a little leaf spring. And inside of the actual canister, you can see there's a little tiny particles of sludge and things in there. Not a whole lot. Just a little particle here and there. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up all these parts, and then I'll lay them out next to the older FRAM to compare how it's changed over a decade or so. Also, one thing I forgot to mention right off the bat was that this filter does not have a bypass valve like the older one does. It could be because it's related to the car that it was put on. Maybe it had one on the car built in. I don't know that for sure right now. Alright, so here are all the parts laid out. Starting off with the canister. Later on they added this texture on here to make it more grippy when you're trying to put it on or off. Going by thicknesses, it's probably about the same. They take about the same amount of force to squeeze them. And the little leaf spring that keeps it together. As you can see, this the one from today does not have a bypass valve on it, or a pressure release valve, whatever you want to call it. Most of the time FRAMs have these little plastic ones. It's got the little spring on it. I don't really like these. I don't like this design. This one doesn't have one at all. And on to the most important part, the filter. The new one, or the one from today, is on the bottom. And just line them up, and you can see by going around. You can see that the FRAM from a decade ago has more evenly spread pleats than the one from today. This one doesn't look quite as good. The insides, you can see that they've added the swirl to it. There's a little swirl pattern on the inside of that one. That was later on that must have added that, because this older one does not have that. Then on to the anti-drainback valve. This one does appear to be like a rubber, just like the older ones, although it's a different style. I do see a little bit of sludge, and I wiped most of it off there is still a little bit left. There's a bit of sludge on the rim, and that's what usually causes these FRAM filters, their little anti-drainback valve, to fail. It's a little bit of sludge, and after a night of sitting, it usually just drains back anyway. And then onto the cap. They're about the same weight, probably about the same size. Similar filters. Oh, and the O-ring as well. I took it off of this one. The O-ring on the newer frame is a bit larger. The older one kind of fits in it. But overall, it's just an O-ring. It's, you know, as thick as it needs to be, really. Alright, here's one more thing I don't like about FRAM, along with their valves. Inside, where the leaf spring goes onto, which would normally have the bypass valve on it, the only thing that seals it is the actual cardboard on the actual valve or the spring itself. And you're supposed to get a good seal in between here. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's even, but can you really get that great of a seal between cardboard and metal? I don't know. Then the same goes on the top. The little anti-drainback valve just sits on top of there. It's expected to keep 60 psi back, and you know, I mean, it fits in there. But rubber to cardboard might get a little better than metal to cardboard. But still, you know, I don't think it's going to get. It's not going to be a perfect seal. At least on the Valvoline filter, and probably most others that have metal end caps, the little anti-drainback valve actually seals right onto metal, and I trust that it gets a pretty good seal on that. That's another plus with metal end caps, not just the integrity, but also you get better. You get a better seal with your rubber valves than I would think on cardboard. I'd like to get some other brand filters in here and take a look at those. My oil change on my Wix filter isn't going to be for a little while, so it's going to be quite some time before I get that inspected.